Hi, I'm Sara Gonzalez. Welcome to the news and why it matters. Glenn, what was the top story for you?
I'm going to go with the day number 2 of the Jim Acosta.
Okay. All right.
Story.
Wow, Jim Acosta. He's getting all the headlines he wants, I guess.
He is.
This is amazing.
No, but I want to take it a different place. It's not this. I want to take it a different place.
Yeah, you have a good take on it, so I'm glad to hear it. I will say the shooting this morning and trying to put it in perspective.
Okay, Jason.
Even more turmoil in the Supreme Court, possibly.
All right.
This is going to drive them
nuts.
I know. Before we get into that, I want to thank our sponsor, Riduzone. So America has a problem with overeating and weight.
Really?
Yes.
I hadn't noticed that.
Hang on, let me loosen my belt.
Yes. And so I know this from personal experience, having lost a large amount of weight myself. And so I know, you got the crash diets, and then you yo-yo back and forth, and you gain the weight back. It's really hard. Riduzone helps with that because they basically have extracted the good molecule in olive oil that helps boost metabolism and help you feel full. So you're craving less all the time. It's helped me with that. I haven't gained the weight back that I lost, which is huge. Literally, it was very huge. But it really does help with that. So you can go to riduzone.com right now and save 30% off a 3-month supply by using promo code THEBLAZE. Try it, see if it works for you. It's $1.79 a day, which is nothing when you think about how much you're investing in your health. So you can go to riduzone.com, use promo code THEBLAZE for 30% off. Glenn.
I want to kind of explore the idea that Americans now have to be parents, not only in their own home, but for those in the media and those in Washington. What I saw yesterday and the way people were behaving with Jim Acosta and the president, they both were little children. Quite honestly, I'm not going to make excuses for Donald Trump, but I thought he was the better of the two by far in this case. But I have 2 children. I have a son and a daughter, and they're always fighting with each other, and they're always, and I know both of them. I know that she is always needling him and always tattletaling and always trying to get him into trouble. He is also just like, my sister drives me nuts. And he loses his temper sometimes. Well, that's what we have. Acosta is my daughter, needling the president all the time, just trying to get him into trouble, okay? Just trying to be the big dog. And the president lost his temper yesterday. And I have no problem, because I think he held it for a very long time. As we said yesterday, I think he held it for a very long time. But the 2 of them need to knock it off. But it's not even Acosta. It's CNN that should be ashamed. The president revoked his credentials, but I'm having a hard time with this because I don't want the president to be able to pick who's covering him, and just revoke credentials. I don't like that. However, what was the president supposed to do? You can't live like this. But here's where it really breaks down in society, because half of us are saying, Jim Acosta, he's a hero, and half of us are saying the president is a hero. We're acting like bad parents. We know both sides when we're alone with each other, not in public, but when I'm alone with a bunch of really hardcore Trump supporters, when nobody's listening, they will say, I hate the way they tweet things, I hate all of that, but, blah, 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 blah. Same thing with the other side. I hope that they are saying, yeah, CNN's out of control. I'm not sure because I don't have
credit.
I don't have a lot of lefty friends, but I do have a lot of Democratic friends, and they're sick of it as well. We have to stop choosing sides. We have to say, when Twitter, I saw this all last night, oh, so you're against Acosta's, or what's his name, Acosta. You're against Acosta, so you're just excusing Trump? No, that's not what I said. That's not what I said. It's like children. I'm dealing with you right now. I'll talk to your brother alone. I'm talking about what you did. I don't care what he did. And it's so frustrating. But there's another level. And if you look at Jonathan Haidt, and we're going to talk about this on radio hopefully tomorrow, Jonathan Haidt says that there are 6 moral foundations. And the 6 moral foundations, liberals, now remember, he's a liberal progressive. Liberals have,
at least. I don't know if he'd say that about himself now, but he was.
He was.
Yeah.
When he started research for this book, he was.
Yeah. So he says liberals have 3 moral foundations, and they are care, fairness, and liberty. Conservatives have 6. We have those 3, but then we also have loyalty, we have respect for authority, and I'm trying to remember what sacredness, or I can't remember what he calls it, but, is there nothing sacred? That's where this breakdown is coming down in our conversations, because all they're talking about now is liberty. They want to say, Cameruno, it's my dog is with me because we had to put his best friend down on Monday, so he's kind of sad.
He's very curious about the camera.
Yeah, so he's just kind of hanging out with me at work. We can't talk to each other because all they want to do is talk about liberty, and the president should do this. Well, we want to talk about authority. It's the president. You asked your question. You just kept going. We have to have some order. So we're just talking over each other.
What's interesting to me, too, is I seem to recall when Obama was in office, we would get in trouble for not saying President Obama.
Yes.
Like that was the level of respect that you needed to have for him, was
It's
that you couldn't
disrespectful just to say Obama.
Right. But somehow now it's okay to badger the president.
No, it's fine to call him a racist.
Yeah.
The most ridiculous thing I think about this whole war especially between, I guess, the president and CNN, is that this shouldn't have been up to the White House to revoke his credentials.
CNN.
This should have been on CNN.
Yes.
Because that was just...
It is.
You're not following the rules. You're being disrespectful, not only to the president, so he asked the question, framing it as, hey, buddy, you're a liar. Care to explain why you lied to us about this? That's how he framed the question. But that should have been...
Which, again, wasn't even true.
But think about how disrespectful it was to the rest of the journalists there that really wanted to ask questions and get answers. He's just there to grandstand. He was there to play Jerry Springer and start a fight, and he didn't give a crap about everybody else that was there.
So CNN has said it. I mean, what's his name that's running it? Zucker? He actually has come out and said, hey, the people are king, and the people, when we're talking about Trump, the ratings are good. The minute we stop talking about Trump, the ratings are bad. He knows that. It's what Ted Koppel was saying a few weeks ago, and and Brian Stelter, no, we're pure. No, you're not. The guy running your company says, we know that when we're talking about Trump, our ratings are good. When we stop, our ratings are bad. That's why we're talking about Trump. That's what he said. This is just a show for them, and they're using our emotions, and they're using our country, our relationships. For what? For ratings.
The conundrum with CNN, and actually I look at a lot of the ratings, and all of the ratings that you look at for people that are watching, the most amount of Americans that are watching cable news, they are far skewed on the networks that are very partisan. So like Fox News is leading everybody. They're obviously not liberal. MSNBC is very, very competitive, right there with them. CNN's way down on the line, way down on the list. And to me, the reason that's interesting is because they're trying to, I guess, they're holding the line of we're the ones in the middle. Like we're the least partisan.
They're not.
Even when they are like not partisan, like when you have like a Jake Tapper or whatever, who's really good, and Jake Tapper, I think, should be like leading all the other ones combined. But when it's like they just the mere fact that they're supposed to be like in the middle and they're not taking a hardcore side, no one wants to hear that.
I think they've abandoned their brand here.
Totally.
With this Trump stuff. I mean, yeah. I can't. It's so hard to relate to what you're saying from Zucker as they say this is the guy. They know the ratings are good when Trump is on. It's the exact opposite with me. I've heard all these Trump arguments 15,000 times. I have no interest in it anymore. I've heard all of the same arguments, the same points, these same hosts on there saying the same things every day. And it's like, it's tiring. And they've abandoned the brand of this is CNN and trying to at least appear as if they're news people.
No, they're
not even trying. Many of them.
At worst, they are just playing for ratings. At best, they're just trying to virtue signal to the rest of the world. We're on the right side of this.
Can we say one other quick thing about this before we go? There's just that weird thing where both of these sides are just telling us these strange tales. Like, there's video of this woman walking up and trying to take the microphone. At no point was he harassed by this woman. Did the woman do anything to him in a physical way other than just try to get the microphone? It was a minor incident. The biggest thing you could say about it was maybe it was a nudge. The same thing with Acosta. Acosta is, he's the douchiest of douches to me. I can't stand Jim Acosta. He did not assault this woman. He did not punch her. He did not press hard against her. He moved his arm down 6 inches. We all saw it on video. Sara Huckabee Sanders tweets out a video in which they've sped up the arm moving down to make it look like he hit her. Like, this is, we are, you always talk about postmodernism, Glenn, where you just, it's a post-fact era. Doesn't matter what you see with your eyes. You just say whatever you want to say. And that's where we are on both sides of this. It's insanity.
And that brings up, I wanted to show an example of that while we're talking about this. So I tweeted out last night after they revoked his credentials. Tell me if there's anything wrong with this. I said Acosta was rude to Trump and disrespectful to the White House staffer, but he didn't assault anyone. I don't think his actions warrant credentials being suspended, but it's hard to have sympathy for a man who was basically asking for it.
This is that's exactly how I feel, basically.
Right, like there's nothing there. I didn't think that I had said anything seriously offensive.
I agree with his credentials being suspended.
And that's fine.
Let's get to it. Let's come back to that.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. So I want to show some of the responses that I got that just completely blew me away, that they would take what I said and turn it into this. Asking for it, what a disgusting thing to say. With that one statement, I know everything I need to know about you and your horrendous ignorance. Nobody asks to be touched without consent, which is what the staffer did to Acosta. Shame on you. Can I show one more? You're the type of person that thinks that a woman is asking for it when she wears revealing clothes. They're actually telling me that I can't use the term now asking for it because that's sometimes used when people get sexually assaulted.
Dog whistle. Yeah. You know what a dog whistle is?
No, that's really what they were telling me, and I was like, what world are we living in now?
It's insane. And I tell you, I think we are now over the hill, and it may be coming back down the other side now. I can't imagine, and it's probably going to get much worse, but I can't imagine that we're not starting to collect a lot of people, but they have no place to go yet. But we're not seeing a lot of people who are just like, this is stupid. And they're just done with both sides. They're just done with it. They still care about the issues, but they don't want to hear the bickering anymore.
Yeah, so they probably don't have a Twitter account then.
Probably not.
All right, we'll get to the shooting when we return.
So if you go to settings and then muted words and you put in Acosta, your Twitter feed gets a lot better.
We are going to actually get back to an off-air conversation we were having, but before we do that, we do want to thank our sponsor, Home Title Lock. Stu, you are a big proponent of Home Title Lock.
I am. I heard about this a while ago because there's this crime that's been growing across the country called home title fraud, and I think a lot of times we try to protect ourselves over these little tiny things. This is a big thing. I mean, this could be hundreds of thousands of dollars.
And you think you have protection when you have, title insurance. No. That's until the closing. Once it's closed, you don't have title insurance. Nobody's protecting your title.
I had no idea about this issue until I started hearing you talk about it.
Fastest growing crime, according to the FBI. In the United States.
And so this Home Title Lock, they hold all. They're the kind of the conduit of the titles. So they are able to hold this and see if someone's coming after your title without your consent. They can stop it. They can block it for you and make sure that people can't get access to your home equity. If someone takes out a few $100,000 home equity loan on your behalf and you get stuck with a bill, even if eventually maybe you get them to get it to reverse it, it's going to be tens, $20,000 in legal fees and all the other stuff to get it done. And there's just not a lot of ways to stop it. It's really just Home Title Lock.
It really is a problem with people who are elderly too, because they're not noticing it, and most likely they have huge amounts of equity.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they find themselves on the street because of a loan they didn't take out, and they paid for their house.
So it is really important, and you can get a $100 search for free right now if you go to HomeTitleLock.com and sign up. I highly recommend doing that because you'd never know it unless you do the search. So HomeTitleLock.com.
Jason, can we go back to you on
revoking
the credentials? You said you were for it.
I was, and you know my background before. I've been in multiple situations like this when I've been with a public figure, even politicians in some cases.
So people don't know, Jason was a protector. He was one of my protectors on my unit for a while. He's never told me who, but I know the level that he was at. So they were high-level politicians, high-level celebrities. You've seen this.
I've seen this firsthand, and there's very little things. There's not much you can do in that situation. So like you can't, if people are not following the rules, you really can't go in there and take them out, especially when you're dealing with public figures and manhandle someone and take them out. But so there's only so many things you can do. Now, if people can't follow the rules, and they all agree to the rules going in, that's what gives them the access. That's what gives them the credentials, or the wristband, or whatever. If they can't, then you cannot allow them to be in that, in that situation, in that area.
Why do you suppose the White House had a woman, a girl, intern or employee, go try to get that microphone instead of a big guy?
Oh, because it would instantly be viewed as he was manhandling
Correct.
the person.
Correct.
Instantly.
So the president only has so many things he can do. But one of the things I think the president should never do is tell the news companies who they should have.
Absolutely. I mean, ultimately, this comes down, and you just said this was off air, it comes down to CNN. Yeah. This shouldn't be on the White House. CNN should be the ones to say, look, this is our credibility on the line. Like, you're not only being disrespectful to every other journalist and to the president, but you're also making us look bad. You have to follow the rules. Otherwise, we're never going to get access.
So we had trouble at at Fox, because I was at Fox, and you remember the White House? Who was at the White House that we loved? Remember when I put a little picture on my desk one time, and I was like, I love you, because he was asking tough questions? Do you remember that?
That was Jake Tapper, wasn't it, back in the day?
No, because he worked for Fox. It was
Major Garrett?
Major Garrett. So Major Garrett would ask tough questions, and I put a little love, picture on my desk one night, and I got my head handed to me by Fox, and they said, "Do you realize the trouble you already cause in the White House press room? All of the press are like, you're a fake network because you have Glenn Beck." And so Major Garrett had called and said, "Could you please tell Glenn Beck not to say that he likes me? It's only making it worse." I got the riot act. I could not talk about the press room. I could not talk about Major Garrett because the White House was so pressuring Fox and all of the press corps to shut up and to shut me up.
Wow.
My big issue with the and I take your point there. I mean, he wasn't following the rules, and I don't. It's not the right thing to do. There's nothing you can say about Jim Acosta in a positive light. I mean, the bottom line is the guy is there every day, so he can hopefully go. I guarantee he goes to Twitter afterwards and looks at all the wonderful comments because he wants to be Mr. Tough Guy against it. That's what he sees as the right thing to do. And CNN's not going to punish him because that's exactly what they want him to do. They want him to be that person. The only thing I would say about the credentials is Jim Acosta's goal is to be a martyr. Jim Acosta's goal is to be the guy that stood up and he took it from Donald Trump. I'm not going to back down no matter what. He wants to be that guy. And you're just feeding into his ego by elevating him essentially to an equal with the president of the United States. I would much rather have invite him every single time and never ask him a question.
And that would burn him so bad.
That's his gig
Yes.
is the attention. That's what he wants.
I think they've actually tried that with him before, and he still has stood up and started yelling out.
Oh, yeah,
Okay, but I mean, they gave him a microphone this time.
No, I know
You
that,
don't
but
have to do
remember
that.
when he was over someplace, he's done it a couple of
Yes.
times
Yes.
where he did it, I think, with Putin, where you weren't supposed to ask any questions at this particular time, did it with Kim Jong-un.
Yeah.
And here's Trump and Kim Jong-un, and he's on tape saying, I don't care what they tell us, President Un. And he can't.
Look, it's
there's,
not
there's decorum. It's
Yes.
the president.
There's got to be rules.
real quick, 'cause I wanna
really
make
quick.
sure
There's got to be rules, and the credentials are the only thing that you have. I don't support an indefinite suspension. Suspend him for 5 days.
Yeah.
When he comes back,
a little messy.
hand him his credentials back, and say, look, these are the rules. Follow them, and we're golden.
Yeah.
That's all you have to
I mean, Trump only does 1 or 2 press conferences a year anyway, so I know they're going to have this issue for a while.
Yeah. Moving on to the shooting.
Yeah, obviously terrible story, and it sucks waking up every day and seeing yet another one of these things. And I understand, as conservatives, obviously people who really respect and love the Second Amendment and think it's very important. It's easy for us, I think, to get to that point where we're like, this again, we're gonna have this gun argument, and all these left-wing people today are on Twitter saying how bad the gun laws problem is.
In California?
Yeah, well, I was going to get to that. Yeah, that's first of all, it's ridiculous. But also, I kind of understand. I do feel that every time I woke up and you see the alerts on your phone, it's just like, oh, God, not again. These poor people doing nothing wrong or victimized by someone they don't know. And, we're not going to get into the details of the shooter and all that because we don't do that here. We're not going to try to give them any more press. We're not going to, give them, the attention that they desire. But it's hard to keep all this stuff in perspective. And, there's a story in the Washington Post, and this one came out, I think, after the Vegas shooting. And, it's showing, how many of these things there have been. And there have been, a good amount. We've talked about all the details around them. We don't need to rehash it. But it's hard to put it in perspective. Glenn and I have been on tour. We're going to be going back out in a couple weeks.
November 30th.
November 30th is our next one in Tampa and Orlando that week. And one of the things we kind of go through are the positive things about the country. Is the Western way of life worth saving? And you go through and you realize the things that have come with capitalism and freedom and all its associated parts have done so much more than we could ever imagine on the good side than the things like this that are on the bad side. And the Washington Post story in particular said, I think it was 1,165 people have been killed in mass shootings, and this goes back several decades. When you really stop and think about that, first of all, it kills you because they put the pictures. They have little shadows of all the outlines of the people, and you see 1,100 people. You're like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. And it is. It is. Every single one of them is terrible. When you take a step back, though, 1,100 people over 30 years is not a reason to upend the most successful nation that has ever been created. It's not a reason to upend 1 billion people out of poverty. Every single one of those relatives who knows those people, I'm sure it does feel that way. And I don't want to take anything away from that. We should have 0 of these things. There's no doubt. But we're talking about falling in pool level type deaths. It's not as much as it feels like. And I think that's one of the things we've tried to do with the Blaze's coverage is to not give that dramatic attention that they need. But to the point you mentioned here, and this is where I was going, this is one of the big things, because this one happened in California. The article also mentions this. They say California has had more public mass shootings than any other state with 25. The tweet today said it's become the central location for mass shootings. It's also a central location of the toughest gun laws in America. There is no gun law that is constitutional and has been proposed by a Democrat that basically is not in effect in California. And the fact that that these things keep happening there is just a sign of how ineffective gun laws would be in this situation. we're never going to get past this stuff, I guess. We're going to have this argument every single time, and I think it's important as Second Amendment defenders we remind people the facts on this issue. But, you have these solemn days yet again. I hate going through them. It's really hard to deal with the fact that this is at some level part of freedom, and, you're not going to be able to stop it by putting on a maximum clip capacity or whatever. You're not going to be able to do that with these laws. You have to be able to change this at a more of a root issue, and I don't think many people are interested in doing that.
I lived in California for the longest time, and the gun laws are straight up unconstitutional. Yeah. Straight up unconstitutional.
And I want to continue this conversation further into overtime, but we got to take a break. We'll be back.
Yeah, you can't even protect yourself.
No,
Glenn, when did you say you're going back out on tour?
November 30th, I think, is the first day. It's that week or weekend. We're going to Orlando and Tampa, and get your tickets. It's a funny show.
Awesome. It's glennbeck.com/tour. All right, go there now. And we're going to continue this conversation about the shooting and California gun laws here in Overtime. Those of you who have not subscribed to the podcast, go subscribe, rate us, give us 20 billion stars, however many you can give us. We'll see you in Overtime.
20 billion seems about right. I don't think we need any more than that.